All right, looks like we're on. Hey, how you going, Thomas?
Hey Vishal, I'm good and you?
Ça va, ça va. Très,
Ça
très
va bien.
bien ici. Et à toi?
Ah, ça va super. I can see your English, your French is getting better every day.
Non, 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 c'est très, très mal. Mais j'espère, one day,
One day.
maybe I can have a full conversation with you. I can understand a lot, um, but it's when I'm talking that's becomes a problem because
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of practice. But yeah, one day I'll get there. And yeah, look, thanks for joining. We talk a lot normally on other mediums, and we have known each other for a long time, and it's really great to first of all have you here in Australia. For the listeners, I the first time I met Thomas, it was in France, in the beautiful city of Bordeaux. Um, and I was there for a conference, and Thomas was also speaking at the conference, and we just ended up hitting it off, and clicked something clicked, and we've kind of kept in touch ever since. And a couple of years back, it was pretty exciting to learn that Thomas had picked up a job down here in Australia, and he was planning on moving, which he did. So how has the whole move to Australia been, and how are you finding Melbourne?
To be honest, it has been quite challenging to move from France to Australia, especially because it's a bit far away from our family, and it's a big move actually. But I always wanted to have an experience abroad in another country, and I really like Australia. I mean, the country is beautiful, the people are amazing, super friendly, and yeah, there is plenty of opportunity as well here, even from a work perspective. So I really like the country, and yes, I think I always wanted to move in another country, um, and it was Australia. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I remember when I first met you, I think in that conference, there were a lot of speakers there. And I think you were the only one who had actually been to Australia already. And I was telling you where I live because I'm up in Sydney, and I was telling you where I live. And you were like, yeah, yeah, I've been there. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, look, man, I hope, your expectations are being met. And I mean, yeah, I mean, Melbourne is probably one of the most Melbourne people say it's one of the most European type city in Australia. I don't know
Yeah,
how true that is, but
I think it's true.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. And I did. We were lucky to see each other back in HCKSYD last year. That was awesome to meet you after such a long time, and obviously COVID was a big problem.
Yeah.
We didn't travel for a long time, or else I would have met you earlier. But yeah, it was really good to have you at Hack Sydney, and then also besides Sydney. And hope you loved the conferences that we put up, and hope you loved Sydney as well. And yeah,
Yeah, Sydney is an amazing city, and the conference was amazing as well. I always like going to security conference to share information and knowledge with different people, and I think it's really part of our industry as well to being able to share what we are doing in every day and at least demystify a little bit the work that we are doing. And yeah, I think going to this kind of security conferences is it's amazing because you can really exchange with different people from different organizations and learn from each other as well. So I really like this kind of event, and Sydney was amazing.
well, thanks, Matt. And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I personally believe if you go to a good conference, because there are many conferences, and a lot of them are kind of not
Yeah,
a bit
getting
out of
crazy every day.
expectation.
I love it actually.
Yeah, yeah, and I reckon, especially people who are just starting out in security. The amount of stuff they can learn in just one conference is crazy, right? They would need many trainings to get to that point because you're literally looking at, I don't know, on an average maybe 20 talks during one conference, and you're getting to meet people, and all the talks are pretty relevant, pretty up to date, because it's literally about what's happening right now. No one comes and talks about what happened last year or 10 years before. It's always very relevant to the security landscape at the time of the conference. And also, as you know, a lot of good conferences also try to put in workshops, and so there's plenty of knowledge to be gained in just one hit. So you go to one conference, but you come back with so much stuff that you can start using straight away. So that's the aspect of conferences that I really really like.
Yeah, and also the networking. You meet a lot of different people each time, so it's also building your, your relationship with the industry and the people. That's actually how we met. So it's very important as well to have this kind of connection with the people in the industry.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. I have met so many really cool people, including yourself, in conferences that I highly, highly recommend it. And I don't know, you also get to get out of your everyday,
Yeah.
everyday mundane stuff, and get to like you said, network with people and see. If you're going to a different city, then you obviously get to see a new city. Your mind kind of gets a reset a little bit because you're not worried about everything that's happening day to
Mm,
day. So you get learning a lot more because you're coming in from a fresh perspective.
exactly.
So that's pretty cool, man. And hopefully we can keep doing that in the future as well. And every time we do that, we'll definitely try to get you out to Sydney, and yeah, it would be pretty awesome. So we already started the planning for this year, so definitely something will
Right.
happen in November with the B sides and Hack Sydney. Will make it worthwhile for people to come, like you did last time. You did both of the conferences. This year we'll try to do them even closer together. So it's like
Right.
Thursday, Friday, Hack Sydney, Saturday, B sides, all done. Sunday everyone can go home, sort of thing. So you get two conferences in one hit, and they're both different types of conferences. I don't know if you noticed this, but it was really cool that for Hack Sydney, I think the majority of the actual speakers were international, and it wasn't planned. It just happened because,
Hmm.
as you remember, we had speakers from the US, lots of people from New Zealand, UK, Israel, the Netherlands.
Yeah.
You yourself, well, you're Australian now, but yeah, we could have said, hey, we had some French people as well. But even in the audience, there were people from France, for example, who were just
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
really cool to see. Yeah, really cool to see.
Yeah, I think Australia is a bit appealing for people. So it's always nice to come down and being able to share some of the knowledge. So I think that people really like to come here. Also, the market is very dynamic in Australia, and that makes a good opportunity to share what you do in your daily job, and to share with the security community here. So that makes sense to have international speaker in such event in Australia.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. So let's see how that goes this year, and hopefully we can repeat what we did last time
Yeah.
and keep the quality, if not better than at least the same as last time, which was pretty good. With the so while we're still talking about conferences and stuff, and I have been lucky enough to go to a lot of conferences in Europe and as such. Uh, so I've actually we talked about this earlier as well, but for the sake of the listeners, I see Europe security conference scene as pretty mature, as in you see a lot of it happening, but I do get a feeling that a lot of these conferences are not there just to let's do a conference or whatever, right? They're actually pretty relevant. They're pretty good. And every time I go to a conference in Europe, I end up learning so much. I was like, holy shit, I had no idea this was happening. Um, because there's a big culture of sharing, which I really, really like. It's like Thomas finds something, talks about it at the conference. There's no problems. I can approach Thomas after the conference, and he'll just literally go into the details. Uh, that's something that I like a lot, and there's so much of it. Like when you look at the calendar for events in the European countries, it's like something's happening every time you look at it, and it's pretty good as well. It's not just
Mhm.
a bunch of people getting together and doing something, but it's actually pretty good. And all the smaller conferences, smaller compared to your big Black Hatty, DEF CON type stuff, are really good. Like Hack in Paris is so cool. You got BrewCon and all these like little tiny conferences compared to the big ones, but they're really good. There's one in
Yeah.
Poland on specifically in malware analysis. I think it's called X33 or something. Uh,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on that? Coming from Europe, why do you think that is, and what drives it?
You mean about security conference in Australia or about the market here?
No, the security conference culture in Europe, or it's very mature. What do you
Right.
think? What's
Yeah.
the reasons for that?
Oh, I think the market in Europe and in the US as well is becoming more and more mature, especially because there is a lot of regulation around cybersecurity, such as the GDPR, for example, in Europe. And more people are working in the industry, not only in the technical side, but also on regulation, risk assessments, and all that part of the industry as well. So that brings a lot of new people to the community, and I think that's why there is different kind of security conferences in France and in Europe in general. It's just because there is more people today that are very interesting about cybersecurity in general, and also because there is a need to learn more about those concepts. Whether if you are working in the offensive side or the defensive, there is always something to learn. And actually it's I deeply believe that it's part of our job to be aware about what's happening in the industry, about the latest CVE, the latest threat techniques or threat reports, or you have to be aware of what's going on in the security industry. Otherwise, you are missing some crucial element for your work. So I believe having this kind of security conference is a way to get more knowledge about cybersecurity, but also to make um, your daily intelligence about what's going on, and to learn more about it. So truly, I think apart from the fact that going to security conference is super amazing because you meet different people and so on, I believe also that it's also part of your work to go there and listen about what's going on and learn more about what's going on. I think it's really important for our work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I think that the regulations and all that stuff is far more mature in Europe, and that probably drives a lot of these things. Any really sort of good conferences that you know of, but maybe people in Australia don't know about it, that you would recommend in France or in Europe, other than the big ones that people know about?
Yeah, and in front we have Botconf. Botconf is a botnet focus conference. It's actually a really good one. There is international threat researchers that are coming every year and sharing their latest research about botnets, but also malware, APT, cybercrime as well. And it's very interesting because you always get a lot of deep insight from specific threats, and it's also law enforcement oriented. So there is also different people coming from law enforcement that are sharing their research as well. So I think this one is a bit underrated. It's a small conference in France. I think it's about 300 to 500 person every day, every years. But it's a really good one, and the spirit in this conference is really amazing. And every year it's in a new city in France. I think
Uh,
last year it was in Nancy, and sometimes it's in Paris, Toulouse,
You mean Nancy?
Bordeaux, so it depends. What?
You mean Nancy?
Nancy, yeah.
I made that mistake last year. I was in France and I said, "Hey, what's that Nancy?" Because I was in Starbucks, and you know how Starbucks has these mugs for different
Yeah,
cities, and I was trying to get one. I was in Strasbourg, and I was trying to get one for Strasbourg, and they they didn't have the Strasbourg mugs, and I was like, "You don't have it?" And they're like, "We got this one," and it had like Nancy. I was like,
yeah.
"What's Nancy?" She was like, "Oh, Nancy." I'm like, "Okay, okay."
Nancy, yeah. Yeah, actually, Botconf is a really good conference. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best in France. But there are also plenty of small conferences in Brittany, in the south as well. Of course, in Paris, Strasbourg, Lille. The market in France is very dynamic as well, and there is a lot of passionate people that are bringing this kind of conference for the community. And yeah, I mean, you have to come in France to go to these conferences.
Yes, yes, 100%, man. And I like
Yeah,
the concept of like doing it in different places.
yeah,
If possible, for some conferences, it's not possible. For example, if your conference is called Hack Sydney, you can't do it in Melbourne. But it's pretty cool that some conferences are able to do that. On a bigger level, the first conference does that, as you would know. Like every year, they pick a different. They actually pick a different region. So they do one year Europe, the next year they do North America, and the next year they do Asia.
right.
So they kind of go around the whole thing. So that's pretty cool. Last year
Yeah,
it was in Dublin. I met a few people we know from past, and Yahomir was there, and what's his sidekick from Bordeaux? I
Daniel,
always forget. Danielle was there.
Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it was pretty cool to bump into a lot of people that you know. And I really like the first conference, as in like it's definitely one of those conferences that I was talking about earlier, where you go there and you're like, man, in these 3 days I'm gonna learn so much because there's literally people from every different country, different type of security
exactly.
practice there. And the people from Luxembourg served out there. You know, they do workshops on MISP, stuff like that, and people from Japan served out there. It's like who's who of really cool people. So I would definitely recommend the first conference to anyone who can make it. Actually, I'm going there next month, June actually, the next one, which
Right.
is in Montreal this
Nice.
year, and looking forward to that as well. I've never been there, never been to Montreal before, so they speak some version of French there, as you would know.
Yeah,
So it will be interesting.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and yeah. On that, what are you working on right now? I know you have been very busy with a lot of stuff. The project Unprotect is something that takes up a fair chunk of your time, I guess. And on top of that, if that's not enough, you have written a book which is about to come out. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Thomas?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, about Unprotect is probably one of the biggest side project I'm doing with my friend Jean-Pierre Le Sueur, and it's a lot of work actually. Thankfully, recently, like the past few years, more and more people from the community are involving in the project and participating, adding new techniques and updating as well current techniques. So it's the Unprotect project is a really big one for us. So for the audience, the Unprotect project is a database dedicated to malware evasion techniques, and the goal is basically to extend the MITRE defense evasion section from the attack matrix. And the goal is to propose a full classification of the malware evasion techniques that we can find in different kind of malware and different kind of cyber attack. So yeah, it's an open project, meaning everyone in the community can participate to the project and contribute to the project as well. Yeah, there is plenty of feature. We are actually working a lot on the project to bring the most relevant content to the community. And every day we are enriching a little bit more the database, and there is new feature coming on in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that if you're interested about malware evasion techniques, and hopefully it will be released very soon. I'm going to speak about the Unprotect project at Black Hat Asia for the Arsenal track in May. So I won't be on site, but I will do my presentation remotely. And that will be also an opportunity for some people to learn more about it. Even if it's getting more and more popular this day, especially because we have also some contribution from and partnership from different people. Like there is the Cape sandbox. The people that are maintaining this sandbox are using the Unprotect ID for flagging some of the technique, which is super amazing. We also have the MBC project, the malware behavior catalog from the MITRE. They are also using the Unprotect ID for some of their technique, and we are also incorporating the MBC ID into the database as well. So people can have like the cross relationship between the two projects. So that's super amazing as well. And there is people also that are using the free API for their bot, their tools. There were some ongoing discussion with MISP as well for having modules to grab the information from the Unprotect project. So every weeks, every month, every year is getting a little bit more mature. We have more feature coming on, more people involved in the project as well, which is super amazing. We actually started this project in 2015. And for the small story, when I started that, it was only an Excel sheet with some of the technique. And I wanted to have this documentation and this kind of classification for customers, because at that time I was working as an incident responder. So I went to customer site for different kind of outbreak and working on incident response. And a lot of times the customers didn't really understand why a specific piece of malware wasn't detected by the sandbox or wasn't correctly detected by the antivirus and so on. So I started to learn more about evasion techniques, and I wanted to bring them that information just to be aware about what kind of techniques are using by malware to bypass the security in place, not only for the analysis but also for bypassing different kind of security solution and so on. So the initial goal was to provide that knowledge to the customer and to the defender, to the people that are working with incident response on a daily basis, and improve the technology and the security posture to harden the solutions and the security product and also the analysis to avoid being bypassing by this kind of techniques. So it was the initial goal of the project. And every year, every day, the project slowly became what it is today, a full database with a full documentation, and we are adding a lot more knowledge every day. We have, for example, a new feature coming on. We are actually documenting the Windows API that are using in some of the specific techniques, and we are it's still in beta at the moment. But for some of the techniques, you can see the API which are related to the specific technique, and we are building a kind of classification model or scoring model for every API, so that way you can have a sense of what kind of technique are using what kind of specific API and so on, and also what is critical on this specific technique. So there is a lot of features that are coming on, and probably I will announce that better during Black Hat Asia. But yeah, it's a big project, and I really love that people are starting to adopt it and to contribute more and more.
Oh, that's great, Matt. Let's get a bit more into that. So, if someone wants to contribute to the project, how do they do that?
So on the website, on the unprotect.it, you can go there, and there is like in the about section, there is a button for, or even in the menu, you can click on contribute, and then you will be redirected to the GitHub repository, and then you just have to make a PR to a pull request to the repository with the specific techniques. It's very well documented. And then we are reviewing the technique. We are testing also in our side if the technique is relevant, and sometimes there is also some code snippet. So we are also testing the code snippet, Yara rules, Kappa rules, if there is some as well. And then as soon as we pass through the review and everything is okay, we are pushing the update on the website, and it will be posted, and your name will be added to the contributor list. So it's basically the current process. And sometimes when I get an update as well, I'm also enriching the update, because some people are also just sending, for example, for every technique, you can have a code snippet that demonstrate the technique. You can also have a Yara rules, a Kappa rules, and a Sigma rule. And sometimes there is just a description. So if I have enough knowledge when I review the technique, I can add a code snippet or construct Yara rules or Sigma rules, and then I can complete the description for the project. But basically, you just have to make a pull request, and we will review the request when we have time, because it's a side project. But yeah, basically, we are trying to keep on track on that.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Matt. Just a quick question: how did you come up with the name? What's the story behind the name of Unprotect?
Well, the name is it's actually about the malware itself. Like, malware are using kind of protections for avoiding detection, analysis, reverse engineering, disassembling, and so on. And the goal is basically to say unprotect, because we are unprotecting the malware. Basically, that's simple
Oh,
as
cool.
that.
Pretty
Yeah,
straightforward. No worries. Cool, cool. Hey, Thomas, let's take a quick break and
yeah,
come back in a second.
yeah, sure.
And we're back. Just on that note, that's pretty cool. The whole project, and I have been following it for a long time. It's it's such a good idea to document all of that stuff, right? Malware has been using it for a long time. It really helps, and it's really cool to see how Miter and these other guys, Cave and all those guys, have kind of jumped on it and started using it. It's pretty cool how this cybersecurity community collaborates, and that's always sort of good to see when that
Mhm.
happens. But let's go back a little bit more, Thomas, while we're here. How did you, like, I know that you grew up in Paris and all that stuff, and how did you end up in cybersecurity in the first place, and what was the first job?
Well, basically, I've been working in the cybersecurity since more than a decade right now, and I started my career in IT, and then I did an engineering school in Paris with an IT security specialty. It was a master degree, and yeah, actually, my first work was actually doing IT support, doing like how do you call that in English? Help desk, helping users and solving users' issues. I started at doing that at 18 years old, and then at that time I was just curious about computers and security, hacking, and all that stuff. And well, there were not really courseware and training at that time, so I just did a computer engineering school, and there were not really like security focused. I mean, security at that time was more oriented network or system, but for example, I didn't have reverse engineering courseware or malware analysis or penetration testing. It was fairly new at that time, but I did it by my side. I used to work a lot on different projects and doing it on my spare time. And working in IT started from the bottom of the scale of the ladder. If you know what I mean, it's like you know what's going on, and then you grow up from that with all the different perspective that you can have from your experience. So yeah, I started doing help desk. Then I did a bit of security system and network administration for different organization. I then joined a bank, and during my experience with this French bank, I worked closely with the CISO. So it was another opportunity for me to learn more about different aspect of the security, because I was working not only of the technical side for incident response, penetration testing, but also on the risk assessment side. Like all the risk analysis, the compliance stuff, the data privacy, and so on. And I think even if I'm really technical and I'm really interested about the technical aspect of cybersecurity, I think having this kind of knowledge or of culture is also um, very important, because you are able to speak with different kind of people in the industry, and I think it's really important today. Um, to being able to share your idea and to discuss with different kind of audience as well. So after this experience in a French bank, I did a bit of consulting in a smaller French company where I was mainly working on consulting, security consulting. Then I joined McAfee as a security consultant as well, and I spent 3 years working in incident response across the world for different kind of organization, and working on outbreaks such as big outbreaks such as NotPetya, Olympic Destroyer, to name a few, and tracking different kind of nation state attackers and cybercrime activities as well. And then after that, I joined the McAfee lab as a threat researcher. And I've been working on tracking threat actors, mainly on threat intelligence, working with law enforcement, collaborating with different customers and different people. And after that, I wanted to have an opportunity abroad, so I joined Microsoft, as a security researcher 2 years ago already, almost 2 years ago. And right now I'm working in the Defender team, improving the technology, working on the signature, but also working on threat intelligence, tracking different kind of attackers and documenting that for Microsoft customers. So yeah, I think I've been working in different aspects of the industry, and I think it's very nice to have that experience, because it's bring to you like a lot of different culture of different side of the industry. And I know you've been working also on a lot of different aspect of cybersecurity, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a really an added value today to have this kind of experience to bring in the industry.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. I'd go even further. And with my teams, I've always been a big, I always try to, because I've mostly, like yourself, been on the defensive side of things.
Hmm.
But I like to push people to learn a little bit of offensive side as well. In my current role and in my previous roles, I've been a big advocate for that as well. And at times in the past, there were questions asked by the management as to your defense team. Why do you want to send people on offensive security courses? And
Yeah.
it was really hard for me to explain the need for it, right? Up until I don't know if you know this, but there's a show on Netflix called Mindhunter,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, I love
it's
it.
a really good show. You know about it, right? So for the listeners who haven't seen it, it's basically about FBI, but back in the day, I think in the late '60s or something like that, where they start this new thing called behavior-based, stuff and all that. There's a couple of guys. That's the whole department, and they always run into problems because no one knows what they're doing, and basically they're trying to understand the behavior of serial killers and all that stuff, and how they should analyze that more and get better understanding of how their minds work, and then that'll help them solve the cases that they're dealing with and all that stuff. But at the time, no one knows about this. It's very new, so they always have problems. Obviously, in today's world.
Yeah.
For a long time, that department has been one of the main departments in FBI where they do all that behavior based stuff. But there's one scene in this series where they're asking, I think they're asking for more budget or something like that, and they get really frustrated, and one of the guys just like angrily says, "How do you beat crazy if you don't know crazy?" And that kind of stuck with me, and I've used that ever since. When I'm asking for more budget for offensive stuff, I'm like, we're supposed to be defending against all of these threats, but a lot of the times analysts don't really understand those threats in the first place.
Mm,
So I think we don't want everyone to be, writing exploits on the defense team, but at the same time, if they can understand the threats a bit more, that will definitely help them
exactly.
fight these things up in a bit better and more efficient way. For example, I've seen so many defensive teams where you just go in there and you ask them to just not actually write or actually do it, but just explain on a whiteboard how a very simple stack-based buffer overflow works, and most of the time they can't do that. So I've definitely pushed for that, and I totally agree with you. Having different exposure. I mean,
Mm,
obviously you can't be expert in everything because cybersecurity is
of
hard.
course.
You have to really pick something and then specialize in it. But at the same time, having a little bit of exposure, a little bit of experience in other different teams, different types of streams does help you a lot. So I've always, yeah, been a big advocate for that, and I personally also dabbled in all that. Like I'm not an expert writer or anything,
Yeah.
but I can understand how these things work, and I've done trainings and stuff in that line of stream, that stream of work as well. But how does so just a curiosity based question? So you've done a master's degree in France. When you're doing those levels of that level of education in universities and all that, is it still like all taught in French, or does it at some point just transition to just English? Because I'm guessing when you're studying something like IT, there will be a huge English element to it.
Well, actually, there is obviously the whole documentation of any product, any tool that you are working on is in English, but the course, the courseware where the teaching were in French, sorry. But yeah, basically, most of the documentation were in English. Like for example, I remember we had some courseware about Cisco networking and everything. And of course, if you work with Cisco networking, the documentation is in English. So it's mainly taught in French, but sometimes the support and I mean the material is in English most of the time.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, got it, cool,
And
cool.
depending of the schools you are going, but in some cases it can be also teacher from the international community so that are coming, so your course will be in English. So it depends depending of the schools and depending of the horizon as well of the the training and the degree and so on.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just curious how that works at that level. So I think it'll be a bit of a hybrid situation
yeah,
for the
that's
most
mainly
part.
the case. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, cool, cool, man. Let's talk about Bordeaux. So at some point in your life, you moved down to Bordeaux, and I think that was by choice. How was your time in Bordeaux? You were there for a few years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I used to live in Paris, so we always wanted to move to another city. I love to be close to the ocean, and I really like as well the warm weather. Even if in Bordeaux it's not always warm, but it's a bit better than in Paris. So yeah, I love Bordeaux. It's an amazing city. The security community there is also very dynamic, and there is a lot of people, big companies that are working there, such as Airbus or Thales, for example, to name a few. And there is also a good ecosystem of security startup as well. So Bordeaux is a very nice city, and it's the city of wine, so it can't go
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoyed a lot of wine when I was there, but when I came back, a lot of people were like, "Hey, you should have enjoyed. You should have at least gotten into cognac when you were there." I'm like, "Yeah, I completely missed that." So, because
Yeah,
that's the other big thing, right, in Bordeaux.
yeah, it's a big thing as well. Surprisingly, there is also a good whiskey in Bordeaux.
Oh, really? Oh, you got to share that
Yeah,
with me, man.
of
I enjoy
course. The
whiskey.
the, the name is Mounarbourg.
Okay, we'll put that in the actual show notes so people can check it out. But yeah, you better get me some cognac next time you go to Bordeaux, whenever that happens, because yeah, I definitely missed out on that, but that bit.
Yeah, I can
Cool, cool.
imagine. Well, there is actually some good wine as well in Australia.
That was what I was going to ask you. So coming from France and all that, obviously for you, maybe no other country has better wine. But how what do you think? Because we do a lot of wine in
Well,
Australia as well. How's your experience been?
what I used to say with Australia wines, it's when the wine in Australia is pretty amazing. There is different kind of flavor and so on, but there is one thing that you have to keep in mind when we are drinking a bottle of wine in Australia, from Australia. I mean, when you open the bottle, you have to drink it right after. You cannot keep the bottle for 1 to 3 days or even a little bit more. That's the main thing with Australian wine, because the taste is going to be altered very quickly. So when you open the bottle, you have to drink it right after. So that's my opinion, at least on the Australian wine compared to French wine, for example, where you can, for example, keep a bottle for a week and drink the week after. And actually the flavor will change, but it will evolve differently. But in Australia, if you keep a bottle for more than a day or two, the taste is very different than when you just open the bottle, in my opinion.
I'll better get back to the bottle I opened yesterday, man.
If you think about it's a good thing because you drink more, so you have to open another bottle if you want to drink to drink more wines.
That's the strategy there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a tasting as well, right? But I do believe
yeah,
I had a look whenever I'm in France, and you can go into Monoprix and there's wine there, but there's a tiny bit of Australian wine, but that's like the bad wine, the
right.
worst kind of Australian wine that gets there in the end. So I do believe we have a lot of really good wines. You just have to sort of know about it and find
Yeah.
them. And I mean, if you're in France, there's no point really. I mean, most of the wine you
Oh,
get, even though
there is some amazing wine in Australia. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, yeah, 100%, definitely. No, that's good to hear from a Frenchman. So that's awesome. Yeah, man. What else are you? We haven't talked about your book. Let's talk about your book. So I
Yeah,
think most of the people who know you, or even people who don't know you, are aware at least of all the infographics that you do because they get shared around the internet so much. um, Pretty much everyone shares them, and I always see some company or some people reposting it on LinkedIn and all that. But apparently, you've combined them and done some, I believe, some new ones, and you're about to release them
exactly.
as a book.
Yeah, so this project is a big project actually. I've been working on it for more than a year, and it's actually a continuation of this infographic, security infographic that I'm doing and sharing online. And it's a bit more than that because this book is truly I built this book as a guide for threat researcher. With this is a unique concept and very innovating concept that I wanted to brought to the community. So the goal of this book is basically to have um, text explanation about a different kind of threat intelligence concept, but also having the visual to help understand better and learn more about a specific concept. So the book is really I really want this book to be innovating and new in the industry. I don't think there is something similar. And the goal is really to have a mix of technical aspect, concept, and a diagram, a visual that will help you retain the information that I'm discussing in the book. So this book is focused on threat intelligence, and I built this book as a guide, but also as a reference guide that you can use in your daily work. So basically, if you are new to the industry or if you want to learn more about threat intelligence, so this book is a perfect starting point because you will learn easily complex concept in a digest way to understand what is going on, what kind of process, what kind of tools we are using in the threat intelligence process and our work. But it's also a useful reference if you are a threat researcher, a threat analyst, a SOC analyst in your daily work, because there is also some useful reference to, for example, the MITRE attack matrix, some references as well to the TLPs, the kill chain, how works, what are what are the TTPs, the tactic, techniques, and procedures used by threat actors? What is a threat actors? What kind of tools we can use for tracking them, analyzing their tools, their capabilities? What kind of techniques we can use in a threat tracking, such as pivoting, which is a very important concept in threat intelligence and threat tracking. So all that information is condensed into that book with visual, graphic, and deep explanation, or at least explanation about these different concepts. And the goal is really to have something digest to understand without talking about deep technical, words and concepts. So the goal is really to have something easy to read, easy to understand, and also easy to bring with you as a daily reference for your work. So yeah, it's a big project I've been working on. Several people have already read the book, and I get a lot of different feedback from specific peoples in the industry as well. So hopefully it will be out very soon. I still have some edit to do and waiting some feedback as well. And I'm also in this book, I'm also sharing my personal experience working in the threat intelligence field. I've been working in this field since a lot of time right now, and I've been working in major outbreaks, such as, for example, NotPetya, we discussed about it earlier, or even the Sunburst attack, or most recently some cyber attack as well. And I'm also discussing that into the book, and I wanted to share my experience from the front line, from the battlefield, and yeah, also give my opinion of what is going on when you are dealing with crisis situation, incident response, big outbreak, and tracking this kind of threat actors. So yeah, it's a big project. I'm really proud to bring this work to the community. I hope it will be well received by the community, because I'm actually building it for them. And as I said, it's a continuation of the diagram and the security infographic that I'm doing, because I believe that it's a good way to share knowledge in a simple way, in simple manner. Having graphic, having visual really help, especially if you are, for example, when I share some security infographic about a recent incident or a cyber attack and so on. At the time of the crisis, there is a lot of different information from everywhere, either on Twitter, from different blog posts, and everyone have a piece of information that are relevant. So it's very confusing for the people that are actually working on the crisis to really understand what's going on. And having this kind of visual that brings all the information, and also because I'm working on the reverse engineering each times, and working on the understanding of the malware, bringing that information in a single way to understand what is going on. I think it's super amazing for the people that are working in the incident itself, because in a single view, they are able to understand what is going on and how the attack is currently working without going to different kind of write-up and so on. Even if the write-up are amazing each time, because you get more information, of course. But yeah, it takes a lot of times analyze the malware, analyze the attack in general, the kill chain, and so on, and to convert that information in a visual, in a diagram. So I spent a lot of times working on this visual to be understandable by the majority of people that are working in the incident. So yeah, this book is basically a continuation of that. And if you like the work that I'm producing about this visual, I think you will like the book because it will be much more detailed, and they will have new infographics that are not currently public as well, and more content. So yeah, we'll see. The release will be hopefully before the end of April or probably during May. But yeah, hopefully it will be released soon.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man. Will it be just graphics, or is it like graphics and text combined?
So the goal of this work is having the graphic to retain the information. And so there is basically the format of the book is basically you have one concept, and for one concept you have the text on the left and the graphic on the right. And the graphic is actually complementary to what you just learned in the text on the left. So it's basically having both explanation on the text and the graphic on the side.
Oh, that's awesome. That's yeah, looking forward to it, man. Maybe we
Yeah.
can
Thanks.
get you to a bit of a book signing next time you're up in Sydney or something. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, keep me up to date with that. Send me a book when you have one.
Yeah,
Do you,
definitely.
what's the title of the book? Do you have a title
The title of
already?
the book is Visual Threat Intelligence, a visual guide for threat researchers.
Oh, cool. Yeah, exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else is happening in your world, man? There's a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, there's stuff that we can't talk about. That's always the case. But other than that, any other stuff that you want to talk about? Anything new you've been working on before we move on to some other stuff?
Yeah. I think I'm someone which is very passionate about cybersecurity and technology and innovation in general. So I used to work a lot with Python. I'm sharing also some of the Python work I'm doing on my GitHub and elsewhere as well. I use Jupyter and so on. And I'm talking about Python because I think in security, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure I know you are using Python as well, but Python is probably one of the most powerful language in cybersecurity. You can do everything with Python, and it's amazing the way you can build stuff with Python. And I'm talking about that because recently, with ChatGPT and obviously the Microsoft announcement about GPT and Copilot security and GitHub Copilot and everything. So it's super amazing. I'm not sure what you think about that, but I know it's a bit a buzzword at the moment. Like everyone is talking about GPT, artificial intelligence, and so on. But if you think about it from my perspective, I think it's amazing. Like it's changing some of the work we are doing. It's really a really good tools that we can use on a daily basis. I really like it. I'm actually talking about that because I'm working on some project that hopefully will be released in the coming weeks related to cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and GPT. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's it's really interesting to me, and I definitely want to learn more about it. As far as ChatGPT specifically goes, I haven't used the latest version, the paid version. I've used just the 3.5. So I do believe that it's something that will definitely change the entire game as far as the way we do stuff. Because because I've been using it to help me like with my LinkedIn posts and all that. Because I'm just too lazy to write up some stuff. Usually I just post stuff on LinkedIn and like a link or whatever and move on. But recently I've been using that, And one of my mates, John, who you know from HCKSYD, reached out to me the other day. Not reached out. He was at my place for a barbecue, and he was like, "Man, you're getting really professional with your with your LinkedIn posts and all that blogs and everything. I can see you're like really lifting your game." And then I was like, "Yeah," but then I told him, "It's just ChatGPT," and he was like, "Wow, that's crazy." So definitely a lot of that application we'll see in the future. We are seeing in the future. It's really good for that. But as for it actually being very intelligent, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think it's there at this point in time because I was listening to some other podcast and there's this guy Peter Attia, and he was talking about how he was testing it out and it completely failed. As in, like when you get really complex, as in he was describing about this test that he did with like giving it a scenario for the Formula One from 2022. And as we all know, it was whoever follows Formula One would know it was one of the most craziest season where right up until the end you did not know who's going to win because it was the last race that kind of nothing was sure at that point in time. No one was sure who was going to win. So it was literally a fight until the last race between Hamilton and Verstappen. And what they did was they gave that scenario to ChatGPT and it just failed. It just
Mm.
gave back stuff that didn't make sense. So they were trying to say something like, hey, if this was to happen, who would win? And that's when you realize when you get to that level of complexity, it's still not there. Um, but at the same time, everything else is pretty amazing. Like when you just get it to do simple stuff and it comes back with you're like, oh my god, this is crazy. So
Yeah.
it's there. So if you remember from HCKSYD, our keynote speaker was Professor Toby Walsh. He's one of the top guys in AI and in the world, and not just Australia. He's definitely one of the top. Um, so I've actually, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting him on a podcast one day and discussing all of this stuff with him. But yeah, I believe he's pretty busy at the moment with everything that's going on. But
Yeah.
um, so I don't know if you caught his talk or not. And for the listeners, the talks are all from last year are all on our YouTube channel. Just search for HCKSYD. And so Toby talks a lot about AI. Obviously, he's one of the top scientists in that field. He's written a lot of books. Funny story there. So I actually um, I started reading Toby's books a few years back when I first came across them, and so I kind of became a bit of a fan for Toby, just reading his books all the time. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy stuff. And this is going back a few years, right? Where he was talking about stuff like, yeah, everything will be in the future where you don't have to go get blood tests done or whatever. It'll be like just integrated into something like your bathroom or something, and every day you just get reports from an app or something, your blood sugar, everything. So reading that kind of stuff, I got really interested in it. Started following him on LinkedIn, like started stalking him on LinkedIn and all that stuff. And funny story is, I reached out to him. I was like, "Oh, what's the worst thing?" He'll say no. I was like, "Hey, Toby, can you consider becoming the keynote speaker for us?" And like we all know now, he did, and it was pretty crazy how he agreed to that, and we jumped on a
Yeah.
few calls for that. Such a down to earth person, and so cool to have him there. But coming back to your
Yeah.
question about AI, I find it really really fascinating. And it's not just like I said, I've been involved with this thing for a long time, for a few years when I started reading books and all that about it. And then I went back all the way to Alan Turing's time, and Alan Turing is one of my heroes, as most people know who know me. Uh, Back in 1940s and stuff, he was talking about AI and all that stuff. So I've done a lot of reading on the subject. So I'm very interested, and let's see how it goes. According to Toby, it's 2062. 2062, right? Yeah, when it's all
Mm.
gonna come to a head.
Oh, we will still
But
be there.
yeah, yeah, if we're still there. But yeah, it's interesting. What you guys are doing at Microsoft with the Copilot is something very new. Um, I I'm not too across it, but what's the general sort of idea behind it? So it's literally plugging into Defender, or how does it actually work?
It's more for yeah, it's for customers. So basically, you can use it on your own data, and for example, you can request some information about. It's similar to the what you can do. It's basically like if you already use GitHub Copilot, for example, it helps you building your code just by mentioning like some stuff that you want or completing your code as well. It's a kind of similar. You can use it for researching some specific information, having an abstract of a specific threat, and so on. I'm not sure if you saw the demonstration that was released last week. You can also, for example, ask for a specific threat actor or a specific kill chain about an event, and so on, and it can basically draw the operations done by the malware directly. So it's like basically you get a cybersecurity assistance that know everything about your data and what is going on your network, on your organization, and so on. So that's pretty cool.
Is there a plan to integrate it with Defender or some of the other security products?
I think it's already integrated with different kind of
Oh,
security product, but yeah, I'm not sure when it will be released for customers, but very soon.
okay, got it. Yeah, it'll be pretty
Yeah,
interesting to see. Because AI, as you know, has been companies have been using AI or at least machine learning for a long time in security field. It doesn't really always work, as you would know.
yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see how uh, how this actual AI finally helps us. So definitely, yeah, let's keep an eye on that.
yeah. For me, it's a tool. It's a powerful tool. Like people are, I think some people are afraid about these kind of tools because they believe that they can be replaced and so on. I don't think we will be replaced. I just think we will be enhanced, if that makes sense. It's like the evolution. I mean, you just have to learn about the tools, how the tool is working, how to use the tool correctly. I don't think there is a need to be afraid of this kind of tool.
Yeah, I've
I,
never
I,
never believed in that. It's just evolution, you know. And the example I usually give to people is back in at the turn of the century, last century. There was a lot of unrest in cities like big cities like New York and everything,
yeah,
amongst the horse carriage operators, because the cars were coming in. They thought they're going to be replaced by this, which they were, but a lot of them just became taxi drivers, and just life just goes on, right? We just adapt to the new
exactly.
thing. New things will always come. That's just the way it is, you know. And it was the
Yeah,
same when companies like Amazon came in, and they're like, "Oh, the shops are going to close now," and we all know that didn't happen. In fact, because of these big companies like Amazon, the interest that was in books, for example, that was dying, was kind of re-established, and little bookstores started to do more sales instead of going out of
mm,
business, right? So it's just people get scared. That's understandable, but I don't think it's like replacing anyone,
yeah,
because we're, you'll always need
exactly.
human element to everything. Um, and where are the humans going to go in the end if there's nothing left? So there'll always be stuff to do. That's what I believe. Just adapt to new things.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see this kind of technology emerging and being able to work with it. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's pretty cool to see. I've been showing my daughters how to use Chat GPT, and they love it. Hopefully, they don't use it for
Exactly.
school. But yeah, it's a good fun and games for now, at least. let's see what comes out of it. Have you tried the new version, the ChatGPT 4?
I did. I did.
Okay, what's
Yes.
the
Yeah.
main difference? Is it just more data? You can throw more data at it, or what's like the main
So the answer
difference?
that you get is actually more relevant if you compare for two different prompts that you are sending. If you compare the result with GPT-3 and GPT-4, for example, GPT-4 is a bit more relevant and a bit more detailed, let's say. So you get more information from your prompt. The training, the model have been trained of a more on a bigger data, how do you call that, data lake, let's say.
Yes, yes,
So it's a bit more intelligent as well because it has just more data in its model. And yeah, it's I, I think for me, GPT-3 is still relevant as well. It's just a
yeah,
matter of prompt engineering, like providing context, building your prompt in the right way to get the result that you really want. And I think the challenge here with this kind of tool is having the right prompt for getting the right result. So if there is something to learn more about this kind of tool is just being able to create the prompt, the correct prompt, and to get the result that you want, because at the end of the day, that's what we want with this kind of tool.
yeah. And I think it is already there, but I was hoping that it can ingest more data into it, as in like, because a use case for me would be something like um, grabbing the DFIR report, right, that comes out every year, and being able to copy the entire report and throw it in GPT and say, hey, can you summarize that for me?
You can do
That
that,
wasn't
yeah.
possible with 3.5 because it was just too much data. It wouldn't take that. But if you can do that with 4, I believe probably you can. That'd be
Oh yeah,
really
you're right. You're right. In the full version, there is more token. You can add more token, but you can also bypass that in the GPT-3 because it keeps the context. So if you split your article in different parts, it can get the information and summarize everything. So there is some kind of tricks that you can use to bypass the limitation. But you're right. In GPT-4, the token size are more are a little bit bigger, so you can put more
yeah,
data and having more results as well.
yeah. Interesting, man. Let's
Yeah,
see where that goes. And
yeah,
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 what else? What else is happening, man? It's been a really good talk. We've already talked more than an hour, I think. It's always I can
yeah,
talk to you for hours. You know that whenever we get together. But hey, look, man, come up to Sydney sometime. I believe you're going
yeah.
to France sometime in July, I think.
Exactly. July, August, I'll be in France. So it's going to be a bit busy, running
Yeah, yeah,
everywhere, meeting different people, and going to the Microsoft office in Paris as well. So yeah, it's going to be a bit busy. But yeah, if there is some people that are in France at that time in the audience, yeah, feel free to reach out on Twitter or LinkedIn or anywhere else.
yeah, definitely, man. And let's catch up once you're back, and yeah, bring some good cognac if you
Sure.
can. And maybe
Yeah.
we can do another podcast in person with the cognac. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, best of luck with everything. Let us know when the book comes out. We'll definitely talk
Right.
about it on socials and everything. And awesome,
Awesome.
man. Great stuff. Take it easy. I'll chat to you soon.
Well, thanks, Vishal. Thanks for the
Thanks for
invitation.
being here.
Bye.
No problems. Thank you. See ya. Bye.